Okay, I got this Excel file with some demo data. These 6 columns, we got some countries, latitude, longitude here, which are numeric values, but also created those numeric values as text strings over here. I probably won't need those, but I just put it in here just in case. The measures are the confirmed values here. Furthermore, I added imported these data into my SQL Server database. As you see it here, I created these data in a database called LongDB, this one over here. So at this point, I would be starting up a Target ETL Studio, this one here, and of course you need to have installed all the Target InMemory components during the installation. But at first, we will need to create a new project and just give it a proper name here. I'll call this one my long InMemory project like this. And let's just go here and add it. It just goes into your documents location, can go anywhere. But let's add it. And then the first thing after that is we need to create a new data source over here. So I'm going to add a new one here. Notice I could actually add an Excel data source directly. However, I had a few issues actually reading the data from my Excel file. So that's why I imported into the SQL Server database. Now, my SQL Server database is a developer edition. You should probably be able to do the same thing with an Express edition. Now, my SQL Server is running on the same server, so I can use localhost, Windows Authentication, and with Windows Authentication, I just need to do an update here, and I should be able to look up my LongDB. Okay, so we create that data source. Now we're going to use it. We're going to import data from that, and the easiest way is to use this bulk import task. The bulk import can import everything from a single data source if you want to. Click it and select the proper data source, the newly defined SQL Server over here. It's the same as this one. And now going to tables, configure. Now we only got one table here, but you can select the tables or maybe even the columns that you would like to import through this bulk import. Let's go next. This is just an option to give it a different name in your InMemory database if you should need to, but we'll just leave it with its original name. So I'll just finish that. This will actually import the data through by this script, but you need to conclude your project with a save task here. You always need to put a save task as the last task in your InMemory project. So at this point, we might try and go and run this project. So if I click the run button up here, it says no publishing file is configured, and you might also see something like this the first time you run this project. So we need to go here into publication and do a configuration, and what we need here is in settings, set up a folder, or as it's called here, a directory. The public directory is just a default directory that will work here. When I click my publish button, I will get this error. You might not get it if it's the first time you do this. This is just a symptom that I have actually done a similar project with the same name previously, so it resides somewhere. You might try to go and delete all the physical files belonging to this, etc. But in my case, what I really need here is to start up my Target InMemory scheduler service or scheduler management client, this one here, and you can actually see the project that is trying to run this one here. And this is where this is actually from my one of my previous runs, so I'll go here and delete this one here. So now my file has been deleted, and we can try to do a run again over here, and now it actually succeeds. Just saying this, just in case you may need it at some point. If you do it the first time, you probably won't see the same type of error. if you want to, you can actually check if you got data in your memory database. You can go here and use the Target InMemory query tool. You don't really need to do this if you trust that you actually do have data. But with the InMemory query tool, you can query your data in your memory database. First, you need to connect to the InMemory server. In order to connect to that, we need to provide a username, which is the default username, and a password. Actually, during the installation, you will see the password for this default user was something like PA$W0RD. Let's just find it here. It's actually like this. Okay, so I'll just cover this one here. Of course, you could have changed this password, then you should use your own password, but if you didn't change it, this will be the default password. So now I'm connected. I can see, well, the Northwind default database, but also the one I just created through my project. And if I look up data like this, yes, indeed, we got all the data we need in there. So at this point, we got an InMemory database with data. And the next step would then be to create a connection to that. We can close down our InMemory components here. So I'll be starting up my target management line. And by the way, this shortcut over here, if you should be interested, is just using this URL target localhost manage. And in here, in the management line, we need to set up a new connection. So I'll just right click here to add a new connection. Relational database, this is where you can find the target InMemory option. Just give it a proper name, lat long connection. Actually, maybe lat long InMemory database connection, something like this, just so that we know what we're talking about. And again, we need to connect to the InMemory server. So as we did with the query tool, it's on my local host. The username is the default username, and also still in my case the default password, PA$W0RD. With that, I should be able to look up my InMemory database, that one. So I'll just create the connection for that. And now that we do have the connection, we need to set up the data model. So right click it, edit data model. It brings up the data model editor tool, this one. We only got one table here, but still we need to add that to our global schema in here. Normally you would probably have more tables, like a fact table like this, and maybe a related dimension table over here, and maybe another fact table, etc. And need to set up a relations between those tables. But right here we only got this single table. So let's move on into the cubes. Here we are seeing a folder called shared dimensions, and I want to create a dimension that goes into that folder. And well, the country region is actually my dimension that I need here. So it creates a dimension with a single country region attribute, and from there I'm just going to add the latitude as a member property to that. Just add it on top of the attribute like this. It goes there as a member property. You can see the icon here is the icon for a member property, and the same for my longitude column. So now I got this country region attribute with those two member properties. We need to define the cube based upon this fact table. And here we got the cube called if country confirmed. That's fine. Confirmed from over here is my measure, and my shared dimensions folder should be using the one I defined previously. So I'll go here and right click, add, and then insert my country region dimension. So now I got this cube with a single measure and the dimension with the two member properties. And now when we start up the target line, we should be able to go create a new dashboard. New dashboard from here. Let's just add a cross up to that. And then in our source data, we got the new InMemory database connection with the measure down here with my dimension. Let's just add that, but also let's add the two member properties, latitude and longitude. And when it fetch data, it goes in like this, and from this point on, this is where you could start working with the map here, setting up locations, etc.